very cozy down here. Tips of my fingers have just grown numb. Ow!
Oh, you're right. The show is not as good if you're unconscious.
It's just, it's cute as a bug down here.
No.
It's just really, really nice. It's just a lovely little boat. It's just so cool. You're a good dog. Hi there, this is Captain Q. Join us as we travel hither and yon to show you some great deals on some really interesting boats and maybe learn just a little bit with each one. Randy!
Captain!
Randy, I hear you. Where are you?
Over here!
Another, oh my God. Welcome to a wonderful day in Maine. We have a little of this white stuff coming down here.
This is very much on brand for Maine.
This is on brand for Maine, and this is a Maine kind of yacht hunter day. We like this. This is kind of fun today. We have a special happening today.
What's going on?
Well, the special happening is, you know, we've looked at a little wood. We've seen a wooden tiller. Remember the tiller?
Oh, yeah.
We steer the boat with?
Yep.
And we've seen some wooden handrails. And we've seen the wooden interior in boats. And I have a whole wooden boat for us today. And it's really a sweetheart. It's called the Rachel Saunders. And she's right over here, just over Sea Dog.
Ah.
And there's the Rachel Saunders. Is this cool?
This is pretty neat, yeah.
This is such a cool boat.
Very different.
Let me tell you a little bit about this. First of all, this is wood, and this is wood, and this is steel. And look at the finish on this boat. She was built in 2009 by a master craftsman, Paul Rollins, who's down in York, Maine. That was back in 2009. It was a buildup of a 24-foot Bud McIntosh-designed. Over the years, he built about 140 boats, from skiffs to small schooners, and including smaller versions of the Rachel Saunders. He was really more of a historian about boats almost than his building. He loved to talk about the history and what went into building old boats. And he even wrote a book, surprisingly enough, entitled How to Build a Wooden Boat. So there's a lot of experience going in here. He's created a design that's really lovely to see. She's a full-length keel. It has internal ballast on her, and I think there's a slug of lead right up here in the forefoot too. So I actually see the boat as being a version of something Joshua Slocum might have sailed, or better yet, for those of you who's read Childers' book or seen the movie Riddles of the Sand. I love that movie, and I think this boat would do well in a remake. Nice long run on the keel, very typical of a gaff rigger of the old days.
Are these still considered chain plates if they're external here?
These are straps. They actually refer to them as straps because it looks like strapping, but basically chain plate and strap. And they go to these dead eyes up here, and with lanyards reeved through them, and that's what they tension the mast with. And it's just like each one's just like a 4 or 6 part tackle that they honk down on, and to get the mast in good trim. Big barn door rudder at the stern of the boat. Just classic old rudder design from the 19th century on up. They just hang them right off the stern and steer the boat. Notice that the prop is set off center. With this offset, this may offset the prop wash for this propeller, and it may make it a little easier to back, actually. Originally, she was built with no engine in her. But as you can see, the aperture that was originally cut here for the prop, this was not cut for the prop to live in. This was prop to let the water flow through there, so you get water all the way around the rudder. Why don't we go topside here?
Let's do it.
Is this cool or what?
This is wild.
I mean, do you feel like a pirate?
Where's Johnny Depp?
Yes, I know. Where is Johnny Depp?
Now, bring me that horizon.
This is considered a cutter. She has a Yankee jib that'll go on the headstay off the bowsprit. And then there's a roller furling jib staysail here.
What's a Yankee jib versus a regular jib?
It's a very high cut jib, and it's intended to just overlap slightly the staysail, so that then you have the mainsail, and there's even a main top. You have the main boom here, and then you have the gaff, which is the boom that sits on top of the sail. And you raise that gaff up. There's 2 lines, one at the front of the gaff and one at the end. This is called the throat, and this is the peak. So you raise up the throat and the peak at sort of a gentle angle. You don't want to have it cockeyed or too high, but raise it up, and then when you get to the top, then you tighten it right up. And once you have it tightened up, there's your sail arrangement, and then you can hoist a main top. That was a triangular sail set up on its own set of spars.
Where do you hoist that from?
That's all from down here. All this rigging is right here. This is all part of the forward end of the gaff, and this is known as the throat right here that goes up the mast. This board here is going to ride on a pin right across the throat, and will just be something to bounce off the mast. It's covered with leather,
Yep.
and it will just give a little padding so that the throat itself, the inner part, the wood down in here, doesn't just bang the mast all the way up. So this will flex and float up the mast as you pull up on the throat halyard. Look at these big wooden blocks. I mean, you feel like you're on a square rigger.
Yeah.
It's just so cool. And there's lots of lines wrapped up on these belang pins. The nice thing about belang pins, when you want the line, all you have to do is pull the pin out and the line is free. Okay, so there's no unreeving of this thing. And I've got to put that back now. And to make it up, you just lace it around like so. An extra bite. Throw a little hitch on that. And that's good.
Tidy.
Now, that's sort of kind of a mess of a hitch and everything, but if we need that line quickly, we just pull the belaying pin up and drop the line off. Same with all of these. Some of the shackles on board were not moused. Now, what is mousing? Mousing is taking a piece of wire or very light line and going through the hole in the shackle bolt right here, going through that, reeving it inside, back through the hole, and inside again, and inside again, inside again, and then lashing it together. And that will keep this pin from turning and unloosening itself. Especially important to mouse your shackles on your anchor lines and so on. But this is also a good thing to pay attention to as well. And there's a nice forward hatch here, a nice modern Bowman-style forward hatch with clear glass on it.
Looks a little dusty.
That is dust. That's what we call Maine dust. Winter Maine dust. But she's really lovely, beautifully finished. The stanchions, for example, this is all polished stainless. Look at these things. It's just really, really nice. Bud McIntosh, the architect, believed in simplicity, strength, and safety when he made designs of boats. So this side is set up with, you can see this furling jib here right now, and you can see the part of the furling unit lying right there. That's the Yankee. Nice wide flat decks, and we're on a 30-foot boat. I love all the wooden blocks and the 3-strand line, not just Dacron. This is all Dacron, but 3-strand. It's really easy to work with. Yeah. I can splice this, and I can back splice and do all sorts of splicing. Long splices like this, for example, it's very easy with 3-strand. With the cord modern Dacron lines and nylon lines, you need a special tool and it takes the time, and they make a great splice, but this you can kind of do in your sleep almost. This will not rank as the biggest cockpit we've seen. It's just a simple day sail. You got this big barn door tiller, English Lumar winches, and just to handle a couple of the jib sheets or so forth. And we just have cleats all around the cockpit. There's also a nice 12-volt solar. Underneath this bucket, yep, there are 2 battery boxes down there. And you have the engine controls with the tachometer, oil pressure, water temperature, and so forth. A good Ritchie bulkhead mount compass. You can see that from anywhere in this cockpit. Tips of my fingers have just grown numb. So let's head below. This would be nice for the yachtsman that has a little house somewhere on the coast, and he wants a fun little boat to go out and just sail around and enjoy these schooner days and old-time boating. I want you to be sure that you duck when you go down below, because the overhead's a little low.
Yeah.
Going down here right now. Ow!
Oh, you're right.
Almost knocked me out.
The show is not as good if you're unconscious.
I've got to hit it again.
Maybe you should just lie down.
I misjudged the height of the deck here, where it cuts into the cabin. So, for the amenities on the boat, on this side we have an oil-fired stove top with it's going to provide a lot of heat for the boat and a little oven inside there.
Yep.
You could make some bread up like they did in the old days. Here's the standpipe for it, nicely run. Behind me is some modern electronics here. This is called a VHF, a very high frequency radio. There's a fuel filter down here that is going to control the fuel supply going to this puppy and give you good clean burning fuel. The beams on the overhead are really lovely, all varnished. It's just a miniature little old-time sailing smack, something that you can see the women in the turn of the 19th century with their big dresses sitting up on deck and the parasol and sailing gaily along, and maybe the sound of carousel being played in the background.
What would you say the standing height is here?
Well, let's see. I would say it's about dead center up maybe 5 feet.
Yeah.
So it's a little low. If you're shorter than 5 feet, you have no problem. But the nice little port lights along the cabin top. And look at the finish on the inside on the wood. The paint job is immaculate. The boat is almost brand new in its appearance. There's a sink here, and it has a tap. And this is a gravity feed tap. So when you turn that on, you should have gravity-fed water coming out of the water tank right beside it. So no pressure tank, just simplicity. That was all part of the original design. There's storage / quarter berthing back here. This is going to be the storage and quarter berthing back there, but I think more likely rarely used. And here's the icebox on the boat, a Yeti icebox, which is really a good tight box and works well for something like this application. We have another storage space back here, or another quarter berth right behind me on the port side. It's just, it's cute as a bug down here. Right now there's no head on board, but it's actually in the trunk of the agent for the boat, and if you call him, he'll come right to the boat and bring you the head.
That's a new kind of Uber.
An Uber pooper. we can go far with that.
I think
one.
that's $1 million idea.
That
right
is
there.
a $1 trillion idea. The porta potties they have today, if you bolt them in place in some quiet confines of your boat, they're really great systems and they're very tight. And once you use them, you're finished for the day. You just remove the supply and carry it ashore and dump and come back to the boat. And they're very sweet smelling. Actually, in some ways, they're almost better than having a holding tank on board to deal with, because holding tanks are, I think, notoriously delinquent in preserving clean odor in the boat. So here's your electric panel on here, and this is really nice and fresh and new with a little miniature battery selector. And that's just tiny right there, as you can see. It's got a high water bilge alarm, so when the water accumulates in the bilge, you will hear a very loud squealing, and it won't be a noise that you'll be used to thinking, oh, that must be my cell phone. It'll be distinctly bilge water. Okay.
Some people can sleep through those.
That's been known to, actually. I knew a young man who slept through a high water bilge alarm. Simple construction here, but here's the Beta Marine 25 horsepower motor. This has 25 hours on it. Here's an alternator right here. Here's your antifreeze fill.
That's barely broken in.
Fuel filter. Oh, yes, right. This is going to last forever. You can look down and see really nice engine mounts down there that are all fresh and good right down.
Yep.
Like so. And if you notice, it's slightly angled because it's going out to that angled shaft and prop that we saw below on the hull, right?
Yep.
So these sides also are going to come apart. You notice there's two hook and eyes right here, one on this side and one on this side, and another set back there. So these two panels are going to go away completely when it's time to massage the engine for whatever need That's your seawater intake. That's a filter for seawater to come in to cool the engine. Here's your cooling chamber right here, and the water will come in and cool off the antifreeze in the fresh water in the engine. It's freshwater cool. This is called freshwater cooled, but that salt water coming in cools off the fresh water in a sealed loop, and then it goes back overboard out through the exhaust after it's removed all the heat it can from the water around the engine. Forward here, you notice there's a companionway ladder, which is kind of interesting. Not quite certain why they felt a need for it. If you're on a big mega yacht or something, you'd say, oh look, I can crawl right up here and climb out, which you can do. Look at the mast sitting on this massive piece of hardwood mast step. It's just a gigantic piece. This is how they built things in the old days. Big chunks of heavy hardwood. And right underneath that mast step, you see a series of lead pigs. Right down here. And this forms part of the internal ballast for the boat, probably in addition to whatever the lead is on the bottom.
Oh, these are lead slats?
Those are all lead pigs, and they go right through, right underneath the whole thing there. Forward here, it would be fun if you had this boat to hang a couple of hammocks and let the kids come up and sleep in hammocks. There's another big piece coming down that looks like another mast. In fact, that's a Samson post that goes right up through the deck, and you can wrap anything around that, and you can hang this boat in your closet with that post. It's so strong. But there's quite a little bit of room up here. It's not you won't hold a dance up here, but there's plenty of room for storage, and maybe a little extra of your own design work to go in there. Maybe a little bench or something, or some lockers. Again, it feels very much like the boat they used in the movie, The Riddle of the Sands.
Is this your boat?
Yes.
Follow me!
It's just a lovely little boat. You know, once you get used to it, summertime clothes, you'd pop down here, have a seat on one of the nice bunks here, and be happy as a clam. We've had the opportunity to do our wrap today right at the birthplace of this particular boat, which is the Rollins Boat Works in York, Maine. It's really a wonderful thing to come down and see a real working boat shop and meet a master craftsman. I'd like to introduce Paul right now. And Paul, thanks very much for having us down visiting today. It's really cool to see the boat works here. Yeah. How long have you been building boats?
Since about 74. So
1974?
Yeah.
You just started in 1974, I'm going to build boats?
I thought I was going to build myself a cruising boat and go camping.
And how did that work out?
Well, I started selling the boats and then picking up work. And
so you would build a boat and then somebody would come along and buy it? Yeah. You had to build another one?
Yeah.
How big were these boats?
Small at first, 16 or 18 feet, and then 20 feet, and gradually larger.
It's nice to see your work still out there.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Floating.
Yeah.
Especially. Talking about the Rachel Saunders for a minute, what was the reason for that boat? Why did that boat get built in the first place? How did the commission come to you, or how did the boat...
Well, I had done a lot of work for the owner, Herb Smith. He was sort of a famous sailor. He had built McIntosh-designed starting in I think 1969 or 70. His first schooner, and they built several over the years, but this was a retirement project for he and Doris. We built the hull and got the rudder steering and the spars built, stuff like that. And
now this was a stretched version a little bit of a 24-footer.
Right. That 24-footer was a very successsul McIntosh design.
How long would it take you to build that boat, if you remember? This was back in 2002, I think, something like that?
Yeah, we probably had 3 or 4 months in the job.
That's all?
We're not fooling around, If you want to build a boat, it's competing against the fiberglass hulls. You got to move along pretty briskly. The people that want a wooden boat, or especially a new build, a unique new build, they probably understand what they're getting into. And
people sort of get a little nervous looking at a wood boat and thinking, should I own a wood boat? What would stop somebody? It doesn't seem like there really is any real reason to stop somebody.
I have a, about a 45-year-old wooden hull out there. It's cedar planked, copper riveted, and I run over it every spring with a sander and give it a coat and paint the bottom, put a new coat of anti-fouling on it, and then she's in the water. And in the course of the winter, I might, fuss with some interior details, but you got to do that on any boat.
Well, Paul, thanks so much for letting us come by. This has really been a joy, and we want to get by again. And I know you've got a boat out in the backyard with a cover on it that we're dying to come back and shoot maybe for another whole episode, if we could.
Yeah.
So, thank you very much. Well, Randy, today we had really a fun opportunity to speak with somebody who built one of the boats that we actually looked at. And she's a sweet little fun day sailor, basically, a little 30-foot fun gaff-rigged old-time day sailor that you'd have fun with a bunch of kids. Maybe grandma and grandpa take them out for a sail, let them hoist the gaff and the Yankee and all those sails and just have a great time. This is a wooden boat rating. We haven't done a lot of wooden boats. We really like this one for what it was. It's its floater, it's 10, it gets a 10. Because she's so spunky and fun and Maine built by a old school craftsman, I'm going with an 18 for this puppy.
Wow.
Yeah, 18. If I had that nice house up on the shore of Penobscot Bay or whatever and had this anchored out front, I'd say, let's go have a picnic, let's get on the Rachel Saunders and go for a sail. The house would empty. A great little boat. There she goes. If you like what you see, please hit the subscribe button. And if you want to be notified when the next one comes out, please hit the alert bell. And that's not desperate at all. We're having too good a time doing these things, so you can hit the bell or not. Randy, how would I ever find out what's coming up next?
You can follow us on Instagram here or Facebook here. We'll have little previews of what's coming up on our next episode. A little bit early. It's pretty cool. Preview.
You all join me. I'm going to Instagram right now, and I'm going to find out what's coming up next week. Thank you very much.
Instagram's not a place.